Well, good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on September the 2nd. And seeing as it is the Labor Day weekend, let's talk a little bit about hard-earned money and what to do with it. So, I am very bullish on silver. I always have been, more than gold. I think silver is a much more usable metal. And I'm going to give you some reasons why I'm extremely bullish on silver. Now we're going to go back in history a little bit, and don't get too alarmed at the figures. It's just, there's not a lot of them, but it will give you some kind of idea. So around about the turn of, not the last century, but the century before that, around about 1900, we had been extremely busy. We had been digging away like little beavers, and we've been pulling silver out of the ground, and we had amassed about 22 billion ounces of silver above ground. Now we mine today, as we did then, roughly about a billion ounces of silver a year. So we have 22 billion ounces in reserve above ground, and we have 1 billion a year coming out of the ground in new silver. Now silver is not an easy metal to find. There's only very few pure silver mines, mostly around Mexico. You know, the Aztecs, the Incas, that kind of stuff had silver mines, but by far most of the silver comes out of the Golden Cross. A cross like this with gold at the top, silver at the bottom, lead on one side and zinc on the other. Okay, so silver is usually a byproduct of mining those other three metals. So that's why we only mine about 1 billion ounces a year. So fast forward to the year 2000, and we now have only 1 billion ounces of silver above ground, and we still only mine about 1 billion ounces of silver per year. So you can see how between 1900 and 2000 the use of silver has increased exponentially, so we've been drawing down our strategic reserve. Now photography took up an awful lot of silver in the processing of films, and you know, that silver nitrate never came back. It was lost. Okay, and many of the industrial processes with silver do the same thing. Silver is used so extensively in industry, it is hard to imagine the kind of things that they do with silver. Every cell phone, every electrical item has a little bit of silver in it in the form of silver nitrate. Okay, colloidal silver. Okay, all of these organs, these hearts and transplants and stents and all this kind of stuff, they are dipped in colloidal silver to prevent infection. And of course this is where we get the term being born with a silver spoon in your mouth, is because the aristocracy used to feed their children with silver spoons, or let them suck on a silver spoon to help fend off any kind of bacteria or illness or ailment that might come along, because you were pretty vulnerable back in those good old days. But there's the origin of being born with a silver spoon in your mouth. But I digress. So why is the cost of silver so cheap? I just looked it up, and silver right now is about $17.50 US, and it's kind of been hovering around that level for quite a long time. It had a brief burst, let me see, that would be about 4 years ago, where it shot up to about $48 an ounce and then came back down again. Well, one of the problems with silver is in the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME, they created a paper, silver and gold market. Okay, and so basically what they've done is they've increased the paper number of gold and silver ounces so that they can gamble. So quite often, there might be, 1 billion to 2 billion ounces of silver traded every day at the CME. Now, the last estimations that I heard were that there was somewhere between 175 and 200 to 250 ounces of paper silver for every 1 ounce of real silver. Not quite as high for gold. It's about 150 paper ounces for gold for every single ounce of real gold. And that is what is artificially suppressing the price of silver. And in fact, it's been suppressed so much that miners are basically closing down mines all over the place because the cost of mining silver is approximately $22 an ounce. And so if you can't get anywhere in that range, you are out of luck. So mines are shutting down, so there is even less supply coming onto the market. Now, one of the reasons, other than to gamble, that they like to suppress the silver market and the gold market is that silver and gold are accurate reflectors of inflation. The fact that gold is $1,300 an ounce, it's not that gold has increased in price, it is that the value of the dollar has decreased in price. Back in 1932, gold was worth about $36 an ounce, and $36 would just about buy you a top-of-the-line, tailor-made suit. And fast forward to today, and $1,300 will buy you a first-class tailored Armani suit. So the value in tradability has not changed at all. It's the dollar value that has changed, which indicates that it's the dollar that has gone down in value, not the fact that gold has gone up in price. So why silver is an exciting investment is because, as I say, there are so many things electrically, industrially, that silver is used for, that it's very, very difficult to retrieve and to bring back again. So for example, the silver in your cell phone costs around about $1,500 an ounce to take out of the cell phone. So that is potentially where silver could go to, $1,500 an ounce. Now, as you might imagine, in my barber shop I hear quite a lot of different things. I have miners coming in, I have senior bankers, retired, coming into my store who still have a lot of connections. Okay, so I'm going to share a little secret with you. Now, you know those big solar panels you see in farmers' fields? They're around about, I don't know what, 15 or 20 feet by 20 feet, something like that. Honking great things they are. Each one of those panels contains about an ounce of silver. Okay, and to get the silver out of that panel, as I said, is around about $1,500 an ounce. Now, in Saudi Arabia, they have a real problem with water, so what they do is they desalinate seawater, and many of the Arab states do the same thing. Wherever they have access to seawater, they have these great big desalination plants to supply the cities and the farmers and so on and so forth with potable water. Okay, so right now how they desalinate is they use oil as a fuel to evaporate the water and to separate the water from the minerals in the water, the salt and all that kind of stuff. And oil, as they have realized, well, of course, their main field in Saudi Arabia, I didn't realize this, it's been pumping oil since 1953. So what is that, 64 years pumping oil non-stop? That is stunning. And of course, what they've also realized is that oil is much more valuable now as a chemical commodity for all of the byproducts like plastics and wow, there is such a huge amount of things that oil is used for. Plastics is probably the largest. So it's worth more as a mineral chemical commodity than it is as a fuel. And so what they're going to do is they're going to pave the desert with solar panels and commit their energy resources to solar electrical production. And of course, why not? They're in the middle of a desert, they're virtually on the equator, they get such a massive amount of sun. It's a big payoff for them to do that, and a big saving. And of course, they get more money for their commodity because they can sell it for different things other than fuel. So you can imagine what kind of pressure this is going to put on the physical silver market. So all of the states around the Gulf, Kuwait, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Egypt, Libya, Syria, Tunisia, anywhere where there is access to seawater and lots of sunshine, these countries are committing wholesale to putting solar panels up. So what this is going to be is like, I don't know if you remember when catalytic converters first came on board. The two main precious metals in catalytic converters are palladium and rhodium. And palladium at one time, as I say, prior to the discovery that it worked in catalytic converters, was around somewhere between $12 to $15 an ounce, and it is now riding around about $970 an ounce. And the same with rhodium, it's over $1,000 an ounce. So you know, these things can happen and do happen, especially when they are industrial metals. And that's why I'm not so bullish on gold, although it may come back into play in a big time. But gold is basically a hoarding metal. You know, there's still roughly the same amount of gold on this planet as there was, you know, as there has ever been. Okay, it's a hoarding metal. It's not an industrial metal. There are some industrial applications, but not a lot. Okay, so silver is the one, and it has to be physical silver in your hand. Just go down to a dealer. Closest one to us is James Precious Metals in Peterborough, and they're in the Eaton Centre, and the spot price is around about $24 Canadian. There is always a commission to be paid, so that will be included in the $24. As I said, $17 American, which converts to around about 21, and then there will be a commission of some sort per ounce. Okay, and you can go buy your physical silver, get a safe. Okay, a safe that bolts to the floor or cemented to the floor. That's fireproof. Okay, so that's some interesting points, I think, about silver and why you might want to consider having a little bit of silver around, even if it's plate silver, even if it's junk silver. And try not to buy the collector coins. Okay, they are overpriced, unless you happen to be a collector and you like that kind of thing and you want it as a special memento or as a gift of some kind, but you're probably going to pay a lot more than the spot price for the silver. Another question actually that people ask me about silver is, well, what are you going to do? How you can't eat silver. Well, I can tell you that if there is a bit of a rumble going on in the financial institutions and they happen to shut down or there is a bank holiday, I will guarantee you that the local supermarkets in about 5 seconds flat will have somebody there who is weighing out silver and gold and jewelry, just like they have these silver and gold parties. Bring out your silver and gold and we'll give you a price, and that's what you'll need. You'll get a voucher and you'll be able to spend the amount that's on that voucher. And I'm going to link below. This is an old video, but it's during the Zimbabwe days of hyperinflation, and it's called Gold for Food in Zimbabwe. and it's an interesting little video, and it's a bit of an eye-opener. Okay, so please like and subscribe below. Please join the conversation. I'd love to know your opinion on silver, and I'm going to branch out, I think, a little bit and talk a bit more about some of the financial aspects of our world, and see if I can pick up some of the more interesting stories that are going around. Okay, so this is Hound Dog Steve signing off. Hope you have a great weekend. Take care now.